We'd been living in an area adjacent, but we'd been hoping to move into this location for a while. We sort of trawled around for a couple of years, and eventually Janet found this place, put a bid in. It got accepted, and I actually hadn't been consulted, but I couldn't help but agree with the move because it was a really good place. The place had great bones. We figured it was interesting. We knew there was something underneath that needed some attention.
Well, we bought this house just over 17 years ago, and I felt like we really didn't know where to start with it. So we've lived in it for several years, probably 15 years, and then the girls eventually left home, and we decided to chip off a bit of the wall and see what was underneath, and sure enough, stone. So we went for it and managed to call Neil, bring him in and have a look, and he, alongside us, walked us through what the possibilities were.
I remember when I first met Nic and Janet, and the house was like a big dark blob. It was covered in render, and they were so passionate about taking off all the render and restoring the stonework, getting it back to its former glory. I started trying to put them off, letting them know, well, that could be costly, there's a lot of work, but they were just so keen. And I remember driving away thinking, this is going to be so much fun because these people are really dedicated to this cause.
But we're just really keen to preserve the building. We knew it had some age behind it relative to the area, and it was just something we were keen to do, as I said, particularly for the sake of not having something else just disappear and being replaced with a cookie cutter sort of building.
So the first stage of the project was we had to get all that render off. The difficult thing for that for Nic and Janet was we couldn't price the rest until we'd removed the render. So the first stage was I got my plasterers here, we took off all the render, we put a salt damp course in so that it wouldn't be bothered in the future by salt damp, and then we could see the bones of it and we could get to working about how we were going to restore it. So once we got the render off, we were pretty excited because what we found, there was a lot to work with. Already it looked better, it was more open and brighter, and we realised, hey, we can really work with this project. Once we put new mortar in and fix up some of the damaged bricks, it was going to look fantastic. So I needed to use all of my stonemasons because there was a lot of brick repointing to do. There was a lot of stones needed replacing. We needed to clean out the vents. So we had our whole stonemasonry team on this project for quite some time. Inside, the plaster was a bit of a mess, so we got our plasterers down here and they redid the inside plaster as well. So when the project was finished, we were so excited because from seeing it at the very beginning to seeing it now, there was no comparison, and it just looked fantastic. It made me very proud. This is one of my favourite projects, and the reason is because we're passionate about doing this kind of work, and our customers, Nic and Janet, were as well, so it was a great match. We just love being involved with this restoration because the difference between the home from the start to finish was just incomparable, and it's just come up so well. And in this era of buildings being knocked down, this was somebody saying, I want to re-love this building and I want to bring it back to its former glory.
I love it. I love it. I'm passionate about it. It is a salty old building, and when we looked underneath the floorboards, there was a lot of pebbles underneath. I mean, there's something about this building being built on water, soaking up water, but we want it to hang around longer, so we had to get rid of the salt, and we love it.
We've decided we're going to call it summer salt, which is related to the area, and also the fact that it was very salty. And we've had that addressed really well by Neil and his company, and that was vital because it was in a pretty bad state and it needed to be protected from further deterioration before we could do the restoration. So, yeah, hence the name.
And it's done a full flip. It's come back.